Wow. Oh, good morning and welcome to What the Hell Are We Talking About? And today, as normal, it's Kenny and Patrick. Yeah. So Patrick is telling me about, and I hate when this happens, when people say, oh, you're babysitting. Okay. Can you babysit your own kids?
I don't
No.
think so.
People used to be like, I would ask you to go with me, but you babysitting. And I'm like, who am I babysitting? Hmm? And they say, oh, no, you got your kids. Yeah, but that doesn't qualify as babysitting.
No,
Those are my kids.
no. It's more abandoned.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It just always weirded me out.
Because it's maybe a simpler way of saying it.
I don't know.
I'm
We
gonna
let, go ahead.
say I'm gonna go do something and it doesn't include you. Watch the kids.
Right. So, wow, it keeps on peeking out. I keep noticing we do and say things that don't make any sense. Like, I give you an example and we can ride on to the sunset with this one. Um, we do and say stuff that don't make any sense, like the DARE program. The DARE program didn't make any sense. It taught people that didn't know nothing about drugs all about drugs. This is this is cocaine. Some people in some areas call it smack. Some people in some areas call it crack. Wow. Billy, when I get older, I want to try crack. No, crack is highly addictive. I won't get addicted to crack. 20 years later. Hey man, you got $10? Man, I need some more crack.
Yes. Yes, like yeah, my son, he was in the 5th grade last year and he had to take the DARE program and do an essay on what he learned from DARE. And this is one of those times where I'm a little happy that he really didn't pay attention. It didn't really absorb much from it because he was talking a lot about addiction and giving me definitions that he was given. And it's not as black and white as the way they're teaching it, as well as just hearing about things like, oh, that right there, that's driving past a vape shop. That's a vape shop. It says CBD on the window. That's a gateway drug. No, no.
What?
Also, what's a gateway?
A
So you don't know.
gateway? No, I'm saying the gateway is you teaching me what this stuff is. That's the gateway. It ain't the marijuana or taking more aspirin than you're supposed to. No, it's the fact that you teaching me about all this stuff. That's the gateway.
Yeah, you're putting all these fresh ideas in impressionable minds. Now get I get that from like a standpoint of let's train them early to stay away from that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I think it might have been a little too early. Maybe that's something that needs to be started at the end of middle school or in high school, or maybe I don't know. Let the parents figure that one out.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
mean, you had so many people go through the DARE program, yet some of them people that I was in the DARE program with are now on some serious drugs. I'm I don't know. Like, I don't know how it happened because we all learned the same stuff, but sometimes people perceptions are different, and it's like the example I put earlier. I said earlier, where people say or hear that crack is bad or is highly addictive, and they say, no, I won't get addicted to it. And then 20 years later, they
yeah.
on the corner sucking wee wee for crack.
I mean, do what you love. You know, you got to admire dedication, but at the same time, I mean, there's no stats behind that to say that Dare put that in their brain or anything like that. But it definitely put a focus on it for a period of time for people that otherwise may not have learned about it for a long time. And I'm struggling to figure or remember what Dare stood for. All I can get is drugs are really easy to find.
I mean, like I said, Dare showed me what all this stuff looked like. That's all I know. They came because see, I don't know how it is now, but they came with this wood fold out that they put on. It's like a display, but it's behind glass. It's the actual drug behind glass in this wood display. So they got bags of weed, like marijuana. They had real crack in the crack pipe right beside it. And then for the base heads, they had the aluminum foil and everything. They had all that. Then they had heroin with the needle with some heroin in it.
Like some birds.
No,
So did they have like a little like did they have that little pamphlet that said thanks to all the volunteers for the
yeah,
program and they have just parents volunteering their crack from home?
man. And that's another thing about the DARE program that was I know I'm going down a rabbit hole with this, but if you ever get an opportunity, look at the board members for the DARE program. You got Evander Holyfield, who took steroids, the boxer,
Hey, he lost part of his ear
to Mike Tyson as well.
in the line
Um,
of duty.
yeah, maybe he didn't feel it. I don't know. Maybe it was steroids for him. But then all the other lists of people that were on there, some drug traffickers, some pedophiles, PDFs. Um, the whole board was just off the chain. And then you got this off the chain program that you put in the schools for fifth and sixth graders, and it's only targeting certain communities because not everybody got the DARE program. So you got a bunch of fifth and sixth graders who brain ain't fully developed and highly immature, sitting up there laughing, talking about, oh, that's why your mama look like she on that stuff. That's how them crackheads be looking. You know how kids are. We sit up there, we crack jokes, and we go back and forth.
Yeah.
And then, some class clown like me talking about, take the pencil and say, oh,
Yeah.
feels so good.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I think I learned everything I needed to know about drugs from a stand-up special that Sinbad did in the 80s where he said that he had no interest in doing crack because he doesn't want to end up homeless and stinky.
yeah.
And that resonated with me as a child. I don't want to be homeless or stinky, so I'll leave that alone.
But the craziest thing is that portion wasn't true either. Because, see, I grew up in the environment. I'm just going to put it like that. I'm not going to say the hood. I mean,
You knew
everywhere
where it
there's a
was.
hood.
Me neither. We knew where it was, though.
Yeah, everywhere was the hood, but I grew up in the environment. And I knew functioning crackheads, just like I knew functioning alcoholics. Like literally, like people that smoked crack, dressed up, got clean looking, and went to work and worked a normal life. Took care of their kids and their family and everything. But they were crack heads. They was straight up like, I'll be right back. I got to go to the backyard right quick and go see an owl. And then they come back in the house and they like this. Yeah, I seen the owl.
Yeah. Un- Unfortunately, towards the end of my run living up north, my father fell into that world, and I just remember when we moved out of our house, finding like blowtorches in the garage and in the attic and stuff. And for some reason, he had a really long pinky nail for like a year. That didn't make sense at the time because, of course, we didn't have Dare when I was that age yet. But it was memorable. But yeah, it got pretty bad.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I grew up in the environment. So I'm not going to say how much I seen, but I seen a whole lot of drug activity in my lifetime. And it's crazy because like you have kids, you had kids that were going through it and actually seeing it in real time and were unable to speak about what was going on at home. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like you didn't want to throw your parents under the bus or your family members under the bus because they were on that stuff. But at the same time, you knew what it was before the DARE program. The DARE program just made it worse.
well, yeah, it gave you more context and it named it better.
Right, right.
But also, I think maybe I know just from my experience, the way that I learned about drugs, I mean, besides seeing it because it was everywhere when where I was growing up, however, was those commercials with the people standing in the kitchen with the egg and the frying pan saying, "This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs." Short, simple, easy to remember.
I think those commercials were better than the Dare program. Yeah,
It was quick, it was easy, it was repetitive. It would come on, a few times a day, and it would always come on at the right times when kids are watching TV. So it kind of plants the seed without overwatering it, I guess.
right.
Like I remember an example of that when I was growing up driving from Long Island into New York City. There used to be these billboards up in like the mid to late '90s. They used to say something like it was a huge billboard that would say "Fat Joe is coming." And this was before Fat Joe, the rapper, had come out. But he had these billboards that were out, and it had dates on it eventually and everything. But we remembered that because all we had was something we read, but it didn't have any context at all. At all, it was just here's Fat Joe. Who the fuck is that? I don't know. And then we found out.
Gotta let it flow, Joe. Yeah. He came out actually, that's hilarious because he came out about the same time when we moved down here. That was the first time I ever seen Fat Joe when he was
So
dressed
you
in
got
all
scared.
camouflage. Huh?
You got scared. You got scared because he was
Nah,
coming. So you took off.
nah. Listen, in Jersey City, I seen way more than I seen down here. I mean, granted, I seen guns when I got down here. You ain't have the accessibility of I mean, guns was in the tri-state area, but they wasn't as prevalent. Like you didn't see them everywhere. Down south, I seen long guns with stuff that went through four walls.
Like a musket.
Nah, I'm talking about like AKs and SKs and all kinds of semi-automatic weaponry when we first moved down here. So, I mean, I seen stuff with bullets like this long. Like at the time I was a kid, so my fingers couldn't even reach as long as the bullets was. But no, like stuff like Fat Joe and all those gangster rappers and stuff like that stuff didn't scare me because I was seeing it every day. You know,
I think Fat Joe's a
shut
gangster rapper.
uh well, his environment and the things that he raps about at the time, he's became more party than he was when he first came out, you know. Well, I'm talking about see, I can go back with you. I'm talking about digging in the crate days on mixtapes. See, I can go way back. Uh, he was more, South Bronx, I beat your ass type rapper. But now it's more, what's love got to do, party time, lean back, lean back,
Yeah.
you know, more party time. But
Yeah.
trust me, he's still in those streets, like not like running the streets, but still, like a street rapper of sorts.
Okay. Because I think Ja Rule was the same way. He was really angry sounding, and then he put a shirt on and started collaborating with singers, and wasn't as he didn't scare the white people as much.
I think that Ja Rule just got a bad rap over time. Yeah. I think that Ja Rule just got a bad rap over time. And it was
Yeah.
bad timing. Even though he sounded different from DMX, you always associated him with DMX of a sort because they had that same voice type deal, but that was Ja's
Yeah.
voice, and that was DMX voice.
Yeah.
But just
And
so happened they had the same flow. But
yeah.
I remember Ja Rule back when he was doing ad libs on the song, talking about this is for my clique, this is for my clique, you know. And then when he was on Mike Geronimo, him, Jay-Z, and DMX was on the Mike Geronimo song all together. and nobody never heard of these people, but I did because of mixtapes and stuff. Because I came from that environment, and I had cousins still coming down from up north, and they would bring mixtapes, and I'd be like, "Wow, this is cool. Who's this? Some new guy named DMX and Ja Rule and Jay Z. What is a Jay Z?" Yeah. So yeah, but getting back to the topics. Um, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the Dare program is helping accelerate the children's maturities, and not in a good way. They're
right.
growing faster. The same thing with sexual education, because they started that early, and I know at least that you have to actually fill out a waiver for. I know because I got one that I ignored. But like I have my niece who was in the fourth grade, like 15 years ago now, coming home asking what a BJ is, and my sister's like, "We don't do that." She's like, "Talk about it." She's like, "No, both." Like, don't you plant that? You can't plant that in their heads. Like,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
Curiosity. Curiosity kills the cat. And when they was talking about the cat, they wasn't talking about the cat. They're talking about human beings.
Right. And the thing about that though is that I know, at least from my experience growing up, like you have the feeling. It's like, like your body or your hormones, whatever, it's something that you want something, but you don't know what it is. But with this education at a young age, you know what it is now. So now you can name it, you can describe it, and you can potentially perform it, because now they've given you all the tools to succeed. As where before you're just like, I'm ambiguous. I have no idea what I'm feeling right now. And even if I wanted to act on it, I don't know what to do.
So you can equate that to hunching with your clothes on. In the beginning, you just hunching with your clothes on, like, ooh, oh yeah, that feels so good. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And then you get sexual education and it's like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do? Is stick it there? Okay. Let's see. Uh, how that feel? It's supposed to feel good, ain't it? I don't know.
I don't either.
Cause they kids. They don't know what the hell they doing. Yeah.
I didn't.
But I agree with
I,
you.
yeah, I was blessed at a young age as a fat kid, so I didn't have to learn about any of that until I was in college. I make them laugh all day long, but I wasn't able to capitalize on that or try to capitalize on that. So I did math and stuff
Yeah. Well, I mean, you was like an Asian kid. But I
basically.
mean, you a lot of that stuff should start at home. I'm sorry. You have discussions with your kids at home about certain things. It don't got to be extreme, but you got to make them understand, this is what happens when you're in love with a person, when you're married to a person, when, these things happen. You don't want to do this stuff too young, because if you do it too young, then by the time you get older, you're going to be all wore out and tired, you know,
Yeah,
make,
yeah, and
make it,
also
make it make sense to them.
right. It's responsibility too. Like, you like taking care of your goldfish? No. Well, what if you had to take your goldfish with you everywhere you go
Right.
and make sure it stays alive at all times?
Yeah. And plus, look, you like going to go hang out with your friends. You like playing video games. You like doing the stuff that you want to do. Guess what happens when you have to take care of your goldfish all the time? All that stuff gets cut.
And if you don't, and if you decide you're going to prioritize things you love versus your goldfish, then if your goldfish, something happens to your goldfish, it could get taken away and you never see it again, or it could die and you just go to prison instead.
You
So
go
now
to
you don't
prison.
get either. You don't get your goldfish, and you don't get anything you like doing.
Right.
Unless you like being in prison, then you get that.
Yeah. And if you're a male, you ain't going to like being in prison. Because now Big Bubba trying to get your goldfish.
Mhm, 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 mhm. People want your cornbread too.
Yep, because that's how it starts. You give them your cornbread, then they're gonna want something else.
Mhm. Yep, if you give a mouse a cookie.
They're gonna want a glass of milk. That was one of my favorite books growing up.
Man, I got the small, like, the pocket version in my truck just in case we go on trips and the kids are irritating and I won't let them have technology. That's my favorite book, like, kids' book.
Yeah. Like, I had the original one from, like, back in, like, 1985, 86 is still in my parents' house in the closet. It was, like, one of the first books I bought at the book fair, and I read it to my parents, and they was amazed. They was like, "You can read all that?" I was like, "Yeah."
Isn't it
85,
amazing too?
86. I was 5'6".
You were 5'6" and 86?
5'6", somewhere around there.
Gotcha, gotcha. But isn't it amazing too? I don't know, as a at least I know from my experience with my children that my kids well, my daughter likes reading, but my son, he don't wanna read anything. But as soon as a book fair comes around, they're all in on these books. Gotta have it. I don't know if it's a status thing or if it's just that I don't wanna be left out or, looked at differently, but every week, we always had to go to the library and take a book, and then the book fair came and, it's beg for money to go buy a book that you'll have, but I couldn't validate that it's ever gonna get read. Um,
And that can almost go in the bag of ineffective things. Yeah. It can almost go in the bag of ineffective things because kids don't read books like they used to. Like, my baby girl got a whole daggone closet, like, crate full of books, but she'll get on her tablet.
yeah, and like I've talked to my son at least about like reading is important. Like you can hate reading all day long. That's fine. I'm not going to stop you from hating stuff. I love hating stuff. I hate shit all the time. I hate the things I hate and I hate hating the things I hate. Figure that one out. But reading is important because when you're playing that video game and you're trying to read something or solve something, you're going to have to read that thing even if it's not a chapter. You're still gonna have to read that, and that's just equating it to something you enjoy. When you're driving
Right.
down the street and like, "What does that red sign say?" I don't know.
Psh.
Exactly. Exactly. That's another thing. Kids going to school. I guess I don't know if they're learning about traffic safety or something, but I swear my 5-year-old would say to me, "Dad, you went through that stop sign." I'm like, "Yeah, I did. I stopped. I looked, and then I moved." Like, "Well, you have to stop at it." I was like, "Yeah, but what do I do? Just sit here for the rest of my life?" Meanwhile, shut the fuck up. I'm driving. It's like I'll teach you until I realize I don't need to teach you. But instinctively, I want to teach you. Go
It,
upside your
it's
head and I'll teach you again.
it's weird the stuff that they teach these kids in school now compared to when we was growing up. Like, we learned common sense things first. Then we start learning about traffic signs and all that stuff. But to to an extent, I feel where you coming from because I get 101 questions and I'm like, baby girl, you got like 10, 11 years before you even get on the road to start driving. Don't question my driving.
And they remember everything. I got a phone call in when my son was in like the third grade. I got a phone call from the school. Well, it was an email, but I didn't read it because I don't read my emails. You want to talk to me? Talk to me. So I get this phone call from the principal because they escalated it because I wasn't answering their emails. So they were doing math and they were learning about hundreds and all that junk. And my
Mhm.
son used the kind of math that he heard me using, which was more for fun and to make people in retail feel weird. Like I bought a shed from Costco, and they told me it was like after being built and everything, it was something like I don't know, 1,800 pounds or some shit like that. And I said, "Oh, okay, that's like three and a half fat chicks." So my son heard me using doing fat chick math. So at school, they were talking about the number 400, and he's like, or not 400, like 800 or something. My son goes, yeah, it's two fat chicks. So meanwhile, when I'm at the store, it's hilarious because the guy looks at me and he's like, okay, yeah, what? And I'm just looking at him dead in the face, like, and my wife's standing there, like, don't listen to him. He's an idiot. And then I look right at the guy in the eye and I go, does it scare you that she said that? And by that time, he's confused, lost. He's like, I don't know. I'm not going to break. This is my only fun. So, but yeah, so I got dinged for telling my I had to have that conversation with my son. Don't do fat chick math at school, please. He's like, Dad, you said. I was like, don't do fat chick math at school. I'm not at school. I'm not teaching you math. I was like, stop trying to be like me. We got enough me's out there. One of me is too much.
Well, that's my thing too, and that's why a lot of times when stuff happens, I don't speak because my first instinct is to say something crazy or off the wall, and I know I have a living recorder repeater at home, so I don't want her to be thinking because what I said is funny here is funny out there. So a lot of times I don't say nothing. I just laugh and everybody be looking at me like I'm crazy anyway, but I'm keeping it to myself. 'Cause if I say it out loud, I know it's going to get played back somewhere, some way. Like one day, my wife, her favorite saying is, I'm going to beat your ass. Her favorite saying is that. And one day, my daughter and her cousin were playing and they were at my in-laws house. And so my daughter busts out and says, "Oh, I'm gonna beat your ass." And the other one said, "No, you're not gonna beat my ass." You can't do nothing but laugh because they automatically
Mhm.
gonna play back what you
Yeah,
say, you know? It was the
yeah.
same way with the older ones, you know? I would hear them playing and repeating back, playing with dolls and repeating back things that me or their mother said to them. You know what I'm saying? So you can't fault them, or be mad at them. Just
Nah,
tell them don't do that. It's not the
nah,
proper way to do.
nah. And like, my sister in law taught my 4-year-old daughter while on vacation, very quickly, by the way. Upon coming back to the condo we were staying at, she would walk through the door and say, "We're back, bitches." Then she said that basically everywhere, including at preschool. But she would mix it up because she'd screw it up a little bit after a while. So it got to the point where it just became funny for me, where she'd say, "We're back, we're bitches." And I'd say, "Yep,
Or
we sure
or
are."
or I could imagine how kids just reverse the whole thing, and she just says, "We bitches back."
I love that. That would be perfect. But no, that was one of the studies that I was reading up on, was that when a kid uses a curse word and doesn't know the meaning, but uses it in the right context, that's a sign of intelligence because they're able to adapt it based on what they think they know about it. My kids don't know what the F word means. However, I've heard my son drop the MF before, and after I got done restraining myself, um, at least it was, in hindsight, it was used in the correct context. But I agree with you. We do have to watch what we say because I've had times where my daughter's broken out one of my favorite sayings that I've used. Um, I used it actually in an improv show where I said, I'm an independent black woman. I don't need a man." My daughter, this little blonde, blue eyed, white looking girl, has said that to adults just in public that we don't know. And I just look at them like, yep, she is. Because it's not about what you heard is, I am a skin color that I don't appear. What I heard is, I'm strong and I'm confident.
Right.
So, and that's what it's all about being.
It's all about context.
Yep. Yep. Because I didn't teach that to her to say, I'm wearing blackface. I taught that to her as in, I rely on myself and I'm confident about it. because there's independent white women out there. They're just not as loud in the movie theater.
Okay. All right. Uh, move right along. Yeah, but
Let's go to we're gonna so we shit on Dare. You want to shit on Mad while we're at it because they started Mad way late for me. I was already out of school when they started Mad. What is it against? It's MADD, Mothers Against Big Boobs.
no, is Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Oh, but they I figured it was just, you know, people hate on what they don't have. So I figured maybe MA Mothers Against Double D's.
No, it would be Mothers Against Big Boobs, so it'd be MAB. It'd be MAB. Mothers Against. No, it could be Mothers
Mad
Against
Dib-
Daughters with Big Boobs.
So yeah, a lot of envy and hate. I'm against drunk driving too.
Yeah, but that was one of those things that really didn't affect my community because most of the people that was in their teenage years, they didn't have cars.
No, we didn't drive that much. You
So it
also
wasn't no
you also depends on where you are too, because if you're in more of a city type of structure, there's not as much driving.
Yeah,
There's a lot more public transportation and there's a lot more walking, like public intoxication, maybe because there's sidewalks and everything's nearby. But like living, I know just from my example, living in the South, it takes forever to get everywhere if you
right.
don't drive. We don't have taxis and we don't have buses and
Trains.
trains. We don't have any of that. So I mean, my job when I was in high school and college when I started driving was I was the designated driver for most of my friends that like to go out and drink. I would go pick them up, or I'd go show up late to a party, take people home or the hospital, depending on what the circumstance was, and get my cheeseburger, my tank of gas, and go home.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Like we could have like it was some people that drove that should have been not not Mothers Against Drunk Driving, but it should have been like Massey, Mothers Against Stupid Idiots Driving or something like that. Like because some of the kids did some stupid stuff, you know. Like one kid I think was like speeding and like dancing on the back of a pickup truck and then they smacked a tree and
Yeah.
it ended up like semi paralyzing one kid and another kid lost his arm or something like that. Like, and it was like right down the street from my school. So that was my high school. So it was, it was idiotic, but like as far as like drunk driving, like teens drunk driving, like nah. Like I don't recall no teens when I was growing up getting to an accident from drunk driving. It could have happened, but I don't recall it happening.
Well,
So
yeah, but you also remember that the time that we were in school, it wasn't everything wasn't as public. If you wanted to know about something, you had to read about it in either a newspaper or see it on the news. Now you can go to any social media and you'll see everything.
right.
So I think the number is probably lower back then because not as it wasn't as public. Also, there were less people alive back then than there are now. Uh, but at the same time, I know at least for me, whenever I was in high school, they would have those assemblies it felt like once or twice a year where they'd show someone who was an alumni that just graduated or was graduated within the last few years that died from drunk driving. And they would show like they'd have the kid's parent come in there and talk to them and everything like that. I don't know if you had to go through that, but I know I did every year for 4 years. A different parent coming and talking about and crying about how their child would still be here if they didn't make a poor choice.
Yeah, but this goes back to what I said earlier. It starts at home, you know? You listen, I kept it 100 with my daughters all the time. And the reason being is because, first of all, I was their age before. Second, I know how stupidity creeps into your mind. And third, I want you to be prepared as much as possible. to go out into the world. So even at like 15, 16, they would go to like parties with their friends. I would say, if you didn't roll it, don't smoke it. And they'd be like, Dad, we don't do that. If you didn't listen to me, if you didn't roll it, don't smoke it. If you didn't pour it, don't drink it. All right.
I
And if
support
you're
that.
going to get behind the steering wheel and get ready to drive, get out the car, leave the keys in there, and run yourself into a tree. Just run high speed into a tree. And then come call me to come pick you up. Because that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
N
And also
not
yeah, and also
not
don't get
drive
in
the
the
car
car.
into it, run
Right. Yeah,
yourself
yeah,
into
yeah.
the damn tree.
Yeah. Yeah, but also you do have those people like I lost one of my best friends when I was in my early 20s due to drunk driving, and he wasn't even the driver. He was drunk and he gave his buddy that he was with the keys to his car and said, "I'm too drunk to drive." And the other dude was like, "All right, I'll drive." The other guy was drunk too, but he got drunk after that he had received the keys. He's like, "I'm gonna drink. I'm not gonna be able to drive. Here's my keys." And then drove. And the sad part of it is that on the like they were leaving the big mall over there in Charlotte, um, and driving on one of those back roads, they veered a little bit off, straight into a guardrail, the beginning of a guardrail, went straight through the car, straight through the car, took them completely out instantly, and the driver didn't even have a scratch. So yeah, it's if the person who's got the keys is under the influence, doesn't matter if you're like, oh, well, I was drinking, but I didn't drive. Like, well, you got to be able to keep yourself together. But yeah, that's the whole thing. That's why we have a drinking age
Right.
because you're not mature enough. And I think it's even crazier to me. I was thinking of this because my kids are now. My son, he's 11 now, and he's starting to venture off and want to go play with his friends and junk. He's a lot different than the way I was because I was pushed out the door at 5 and said, "Go, come back when it gets dark."
When
My
the street
parents
lights
didn't
come
care.
on, you come home.
I could tell you maybe 3 or 4 of my friends through ages 5 to 16 that my parents actually knew who the parents were. Maybe 1 or 2, maybe less. Now, I have to know who the parents are for every kid that you go hang out with, where they
Yeah.
live, contact numbers, all that shit. Plus not to mention the fact that they have different things like whether it be a watch or a phone or something to GPS track these kids so I can tell you where they are.
Right.
But back then, they didn't know. My
No.
parents didn't know where I was.
Mm-mm.
And they even had commercials at night to remind you you have kids. It's
It's
10
10
p.m. You know
PM.
where
Do
your
you know where your
children
kids
are.
are?
And then freaking what was it called? America's Most Wanted came out. And then I mean it didn't change anything, but yeah, it got a little bit different. But these days too, like they try to scare you and say, "Oh, don't talk to strangers." And and their children can be abducted and kidnapped and all that stuff. There are more kids that are abducted or kidnapped by people they know than by strangers. And how does that make you feel if you never were one of those kids that did get abducted, molested, any of those things? I was a little fat kid. Nobody ever tried to steal me or touch my pee pee. What's wrong with me?
I'm a little fat boy. I got some popsicles in my
Like
basement.
here, I'm gonna give you this cheeseburger. Can you hold it up like Bob's Big Boy?
Bring your little fat ass here, boy.
Yeah. Which one of you kid just a pickup truck pulls over? It's like which one of you kids can keep a secret the best?
They was I don't know. It was just a weird thing growing up. Like, I remember the world just changing during my grow up stage. Um, you know, to go back, and look at it, crack came in. Crack changed a lot of things. Let's see, you could go anywhere, everywhere with your friends on your bicycle. Parents wouldn't know jack. You could do a million and one things. That's how I got to meet the mafia in Jersey at an arcade. We was on our bike way on the other side of town where we ain't supposed to have been. And the mob guys, the big man was back there in the back. He said something to one of the guys in the sweatsuit. He came up. He said, "Okay, it's time for yous to leave." And guess what? We got on our bikes and we left. It was things like, like we had like a whole like shanty town in the woods beside like a college that we had created. And we was just back there with mattresses, with pissy mattresses, jumping on the spring going your foot at any damn time. We didn't give a damn. We up playing on roofs and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
back then it was just different.
And we
It was
had
just
did you guys have those little landfills that were just in the middle of neighborhoods where it was, like, fenced off and then it sunk down? Yeah, we had those
yeah.
too. We used to when it snowed, we took sleds down them, but otherwise, we were just I don't know what the hell we were trying to do there, but, probably shouldn't be in there.
No. Hell no. We shouldn't have been in there. I mean, and then like people would throw like trash and stuff in there. Like it was a funeral home was like right there where ours were, and they changed out all their light bulbs, and they had all the fluorescent light bulbs, and so we thought we was in Star Wars, so we started fighting with the light bulbs, and one of the light bulbs busted, and it was fine glass and powder come up out of there. Went into one of my friend's face. He run down the street hollering, and then the next day we see him, and he got patches all over his face.
Yeah,
Just
we we didn't see him for the rest of the day, and he didn't see us for the rest of his life.
he got patches all over his eyes and face and shit. Like when you think about some of the things that we did as kids compared to how harsh or basically how
Yeah.
much we track our kids nowadays, you know?
And the things we have that the things we had to do. We didn't have much to do back then. If you're
Right,
playing in a landfill or you're breaking light bulbs, it's not because you're a bad kid. It's because you're an unsupervised kid that also doesn't have a lot of other things you can do. You know,
right,
we were throwing rocks at each other, or we were building things out of stuff we found. You know, we were probably, a few ideas away from becoming scrappers and just either fighting or taking sheet metal to the scrap yard so we can go buy a Slurpee at 7-Eleven.
right. Like I literally found buckets of this sand, not knowing that it was actually like lime or lye for like bricks and stuff like that. Like can basically like eat your hands up and stuff like that. But we thought it was sand. So I told him like we found these buckets of sand. So we out there and this old guy look, he like, "Do y'all know what y'all playing with?" And we like, "It's sand. It looked the same like sand from a beach." He was like, "Nah." He was like, "Y'all need to go put that stuff down and wash y'all hands. Y'all about to eat all the skin up off y'all fingertips." And we like, "What?" And we ain't never played that stuff again. It was like sand castles and this stuff sitting outside the apartment. We ain't never touched
You
it
you
again.
just got all the asbestos.
Yeah, it and that
We
was another thing
and
too. We ain't know what that stuff was. They talking about asbestos is in this building and stuff, and they're like, "Where?" And we trying to see what it is. So we grabbing at the stuff. We probably all got whatever that
and
cancer is, but still,
well, you know you know the joys of finding cotton candy in your attic,
right. Well,
and
cotton
then
candy was in school buildings and everything.
yep,
It's
you got
great.
real itchy afterwards. I mean, we didn't eat it, but I mean, some of us you thought we did because of how ridiculously stupid they were. But we had to another thing though, we had to basically all that time we spent out, we had to figure out what we were gonna do to pass time and connect with the people we're with. But also we were given nothing. Like when people would always say, "Oh, bullies, they'll steal your lunch money." And I'm sitting here like, "Any of you ever get lunch money? What the hell is lunch money?" I know what lunch is, I know what money are, but I've never had the 2 at the same time.
No,
The hell is that? So we had to figure out our own way. I mean, can you imagine again being out of the house between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. and not coming home till 7 with no money? I mean, what are you drinking? What are you drinking at the very least? How are you staying hydrated? If you're nearby, you can go home for lunch, but they're kicking you out after. But a lot of times we're miles away by then.
well,
So
you could go home, but you liable to get in trouble. Because first thing gonna come out the mouth, no running in and out. Get what you gonna get. You can go back out. You come back in here, you gonna get, and it could be your first time running in the house to get some water. No running in and out. Get what you gonna get, or so
Or
that's
they
what we
found
did.
something or they found something that you did, and now you're in trouble. So now that you made it home, it's like, "Oh, and by the way, look what I found under your bed." Or they need you to do something, therefore now you're locked up until you do whatever it is,
Yeah.
or, you just end up having to go in the backyard and grab the water hose because that's the easiest way to avoid confrontation. But I had times where I was at least 3 or 4 miles from home on the other side of town, and I remember this one time I was riding my bike with a couple of friends of mine near this abandoned, like, warehouse complex, and on the side, in, like, the gutter next to the, like, right off the curb, we saw a couple of bottles of Coca-Cola that were just laying there on the ground, and they looked like they were full, and they were closed. But a buddy of mine, he was like, "I'm thirsty, I want one of those," and my brother's like, "Yeah, I want one too." So, like, I grab him because he's a little younger than me, and I'm like, "Wait." And dude picks it up. He picks up both of them. He's like, "Here, there's two." And I was like, I'm good for now." And he's like, "Well, I'm thirsty. I'm going to drink this." I was like, "Okay." It was full. The seal was broken. So I didn't go anywhere near that. And I told my son this because I had to teach him about, don't drink after people. And if it's not yours, you have no business touching it because you don't know what other people got. I mean, I don't need you
Hmm.
coming home with mouth herpes because you were at the park and you found a bottle of water. But my buddy took a big, because also it looked like Coca Cola. It was that dark color. He took a huge drink of that and spit it out and started throwing up because somebody peed in that bottle. And after he drank it and he got done with that, I looked over at him and I was like, "You think there's pee in the other one too?" And then my brother goes, "Are you gonna drink it and find out?" And I was like, "You don't have to say that. That's what I was implying."
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we learned something that day.
Yeah, no. Like I never did no weird stuff like that. That was one thing that was already programmed into my brain for some odd reason. I think because I come from like a southern West Indian type family. Like they didn't play that stuff. Like you had to, like, nah, cleanliness was like something. Like we didn't do like drinking after one another and stuff like that. Like no, nobody never played that mess.
Did you
Like
ever
I can probably tell you how many times on one hand I drunk after my own mother.
what about the water fountain?
Nah, never really big on those either.
Like because you always had that one kid that put their lips on the drinking fountain.
Yeah. Or the people that rinse their mouth out and spit in the fountain. Like, no.
Yeah, no, that's not what it's for. Or the growing up, we always had the one kid that would go use the bathroom, and we, especially in like the elementary schools, they didn't have the urinals that were on the wall. They had the full level to the ground one because what kid is tall enough and what kid has got good enough aim. So you would have the full floor level, and they didn't have the partitions back then because you
Mm-mm.
know that wasn't something they felt they needed. But you always had that one kid that would drop their pants all the way to the floor and grab their shirt and hold it up. And so you walk straight in, like you walk to the bathroom, you see this kid's tiny little ass, and you're like, "Oh no!"
Yeah. So, like I said, I was a product of having nothing but mostly uncles. And, uh when I would, like I said, when I would go outside with them when I was little, they would say pee on the tree. My dad would say pee on the tree, pee on the tree. And I got so good at peeing on the tree that when I went home, they had to put newspapers in the corner of the house because I would pee in the corner or pee on the tree. So they had to make sure that I ain't peeing. But
My
I was
dad
like,
wanted a. What I heard
I
is my dad wanted a dog and treated me like one.
but I was like 3 or something like that. Like I was small. And so I knew that all I had to do was pull it through the zipper, even though the zipper eventually got me. I think every man has had a zipper issue, but especially when you're younger. If you do it as an adult, you got some fucking issues. But I can recall about at least 1,000 times when up until I want to say junior high, where I walked into a bathroom where somebody has literally had their pants all the way down to their ankles to pee. I'm
Yep.
like, bruh, you could just pull that through the zipper like you have no home training. Like no male figure has trained you how to pee properly in public. Couldn't
No,
have.
and that's something, and I feel like that's something, I don't know, at least from my perspective, I don't recall being taught how to pee. Like, I also don't recall being taught a lot of things that I know how to do. It may have happened, but I don't really. I remember, like, my mom threw Cheerios in the toilet and said, shoot for the hole." I'm like, "All right, I can do this." But other than that, like, I didn't. I felt like, I don't know. Maybe again, it's because my superpower is secondhand embarrassment. So if I see somebody else doing it, I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm not gonna do that either." I feel bad for you, but when I like seeing that, I don't know. It doesn't click for some people. Of like, this is not okay.
And then you have like weird kids do like weird perverted stuff to like kids like that. They're like smack them on the ass. So
Yeah, and now back then it was a teaching mechanism to say, "Hey, don't leave yourself exposed or something could happen to you." Now it's assault and like it's sexual harassment, and I get it. There's a definition for everything, but uh, yeah, no. Like my son went to camp and he finished camp this past week, unfortunately, but school's about to start. Very happy. But I had to have the freaking counselors come out to my car at least 3 times a week to tell me something that I have to know because they knew up front, I'm not gonna answer your email or read it, so just tell me or call me. So they have to walk out to my car, and this dude goes, "We had an incident in the bathroom. Everyone was talked to about it. Nobody's in trouble, blah, 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 blah." I asked my son, "What happened?" He's like, "I didn't do anything." I said, "I don't wanna hear that. What happened?" He goes, "One of the boys was showing everybody his boundaries." And I was like, "What does that mean?" So I guess that's what you call your private area is your boundary. So they were showing the kid was showing his boundary, and I was like, "Did you get involved in that?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Why not?" He's like, "I didn't want to embarrass him." I was like, "That's my son." But no, why would? But yeah, we were also talking about, it ranges 8 to 11 or 8 to 12. So
yeah, like I'm looking. I'm like, it's a good conversation piece, but it ain't nothing to call home to the parents about unless he had some weird thing where he had two of them and they, you
or
know,
yeah,
or
or
he
he
was
was
showing them the girls.
or it was, yeah, but I guess also liability because if you find out later, then it's like, what else aren't you telling me?
That's true
You
because
know,
you
so they're
you got
probably
these
like cover like if you see something, say something.
yeah you got these weird parents nowadays that jump down people's throat over the most
Yeah.
littlest thing.
Right? Yeah. And man, when I was in the third grade, we had a teacher that actually, or not a teacher, we had a parent that had a restraining order against them from coming to the school because she was the original helicopter parent. We didn't know anything about that. I don't know if she treated her son like he was special needs, although he just seemed like a normal kid to me. But we had in the school, like, she would always be there. Like, I thought she was volunteering or something, but she would just be there. She would come up, like, she'd have lunch every day. She was always around to the point where it looked like she worked there. But there were days where she would come in and she'd park in the parking lot and then walk up to the window of the classroom and just be so they had to finally say, "I'm sorry, but you're gonna either have to pull the kid and do homeschool or you're just we don't want you here anymore. I'm sorry. Like, we don't." But I remember seeing it. I remember one of the girls in the class like screaming because we were on the main floor. It'd been better if we were on the second floor. We were on the main floor and there's just a lady standing in the window just with her hands on the thing looking through. Because it's one-way glass or it's two-way glass, so you can't see from the outside. You're not supposed to be able to see in. That's, I guess, the purpose. But for me, it's like, man, take them. I don't give a flying shit what you're doing in the classroom. You just go.
Just go. Yep. So, with all that said, don't be a helicopter parent. Teach your kids at home about their and the whole reproduction cycle.
And
And
ba- I'm mad.
don't be mad. Teach
Don't be
them
mad.
teach them ahead of time. This way you don't be mad. Um, and with that said, we record every week and every Friday an episode drop. So if you're not subscribed and you're wondering why you're not seeing the episodes, probably because you're not subscribed. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Peace out. Did you just
You
Spock it?
you did you did 2, so I did 3. I got 4, 5.
Live long and prosper.
Jazz hands.
Somehow I'm supposed to stop this.
I don't know. I'll have to show you the picture one day. I have my former manager from, God, it's been at least almost a year now. When he left, we had this stupid employee appreciation week right before he
Mhm.
left, and we did this like photo booth thing.